They told her it was just a limp. It started one morning, barely a flicker of change. Max, her 7-year-old golden retriever, hesitated at the bottom of the stairs. Sophie thought maybe he had slept wrong, or maybe he was stiff from the long hike they'd taken over the weekend. But then she noticed it again during their walk. The pause before he jumped, the slight favoring of his front leg. It was subtle, but Sophie knew him like she knew her own breath. And this wasn't nothing. She booked a vet appointment that afternoon. They poked, prodded, flexed a limb, took x-rays just to be safe. When the vet came back in, her face had changed. Softer, measured, the kind of face that comes just before someone says something you're not ready to hear. "There's a mass," she said. "We'll need to do more tests." Sophie nodded, numb. She didn't understand what a mass meant until biopsy confirmed it. Osteosarcoma, bone cancer, aggressive, deadly. The vet laid out the options: amputation, chemotherapy, immunotherapy, palliative care. Each choice came with charts, probabilities, timelines. The best-case scenario, the absolute best, might buy Max another 18 months. But even that was a stretch. Sophie listened, but her brain was stuck in a loop. Max won't chase tennis balls anymore. Max won't swim in the lake. Max might not make it to Christmas. Then the cost. The number landed like a stone in her gut. $75,000. She blinked, thinking maybe she'd misread it. But it was right there, printed in tidy font. Surgery, post-op care, 12 rounds of chemotherapy, a custom-fitted prosthetic limb, follow-ups, and a special diet. Not covered by her basic pet insurance. Not even close. She thanked the vet, got in her car, and drove nowhere for an hour. Just circling blocks, hands clenched on the steering wheel. She thought about saying goodbye, about letting him go peacefully, with dignity, about how she would explain to people that she didn't have the money, and how they would nod and say, "You did the right thing," while never really understanding what it meant to walk away from someone who had waited at the door every single day of your life. But Max was still alive. He still brought her socks every morning, still wagged his tail, so hard it smacked the furniture. He didn't know he was sick. And as long as there was a chance, even the thinnest thread, Sophie wasn't going to cut it. She took a loan against her 401k, sold the vintage motorcycle her dad left her, canceled a long-planned trip to Europe, told her landlord she'd take a smaller unit. She traded everything she could for more time with Max. The surgery was brutal. She held Max's paw the night before and whispered, "You're brave, braver than me." When they wheeled him back, she tried not to cry, not until he was out of sight. Recovery was slow. The first few days, he barely moved, but then one morning, he barked at a squirrel through the window. The next day, he dragged himself toward his bowl before she could carry it over. Within a week, he was hobbling with determination around the backyard. Chemo was worse. He got sick, lost weight. Some days he didn't eat. Sophie slept on the floor next to him when he whimpered at night. She tracked every pill, every symptom, learned to read his pain from the flicker of his eyes. But there were good days, too. Days when he ran across the grass on 3 legs like nothing had ever been taken from him. Days when he carried a stick twice his size and refused to drop it. Days when she forgot, just for a moment, that anything was wrong. People told her she was crazy. You could have adopted 5 dogs with that kind of money. It's just a pet. Isn't he suffering? She didn't answer them, because they didn't see what she saw. A dog who didn't give up. A dog who still wanted to live. And then one night, about 7 months in, he climbed on the couch without help, laid his head in her lap, and sighed. That soft, deep sigh of contentment. Sophie looked down at him, his tired eyes, the patch of fur that hadn't fully grown back, the scar hidden beneath it all, and she knew. She didn't regret a cent. Not the $75,000. Not the sleepless nights. Not the sacrifices. Because Max lived another 9 months. And they weren't just any 9 months. They were road trip months, lake swim months, steak for dinner months, morning cuddles, afternoon sun baths, tail wagging, car window breezing months. He left the world quietly one morning in her arms, wrapped in his favorite blanket, with sunlight on his face and her heartbeat in his ear. Sophie still pays off the loan, but when people ask her now if it was worth it, she smiles the kind of smile that holds both love and grief, and says, "I'd do it all again. Twice." Because some lives are more than worth saving. Some love, you don't measure in dollars.